Graham Norton has spent over 2 decades making celebrities comfortable enough to reveal their true selves. His red couch has hosted everyone from Hollywood royalty to actual royalty, from Oscar winners to Olympic champions. He's mastered the art of the gentle probe, the question that sounds innocent until you realize it's exposed something you meant to hide. But on a Friday evening that would become legendary in British television, Graham Norton faced something he hadn't encountered in his entire career. A guest so convinced of her own importance that she couldn't recognize charm when it sat across from her. So defensive that every question became an attack. So determined to control the conversation that she forgot she was on someone else's show. Meghan Markle walked onto that iconic red couch expecting the usual adoration. She walked off 18 minutes later, verbally outmaneuvered at every turn, her carefully constructed image in ruins, Graham's studio audience applauding not for her, but for the host who refused to let arrogance masquerade as authenticity. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit subscribe and smash that like button. Now, let's get into what really happened on that famous red couch. The Graham Norton Show studio hummed with its usual Friday night energy. The iconic red couch sat waiting, the drinks were poured, and the audience buzzed with anticipation. Tonight's lineup promised fireworks, though not the kind anyone expected. The familiar theme music played, and Graham bounded onto the stage with his characteristic energy, greeting the audience with genuine warmth before settling into his chair. Welcome! We have a wonderful show tonight. Our first guest has been a TV star, a duchess, and one of the most talked about people on the planet. Please welcome Meghan Markle. The applause was enthusiastic as Meghan emerged. She waved gracefully, accepted Graham's brief hug, and settled onto the red couch with the posture of someone who expected the furniture to be grateful. Meghan, lovely to have you. How are you? I'm wonderful, Graham. Thriving, actually. Graham smiled. Thriving, that's good. Though I have to say, every time someone tells me they're thriving, I wonder if they're trying to convince me or themselves. The audience chuckled. Meghan's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm simply answering your question, of course. So, you're back in the UK for the first time in a while. How does it feel? Meghan tilted her head, her expression shifting to something almost condescending. It feels complicated. This country has a complicated relationship with me. Does it? I thought it was quite simple. You married a prince, left, and now you pop back occasionally for important events. It's more nuanced than that. Most things are, but nuance doesn't make for good telly, so let's dig in. Graham leaned back, his posture open and friendly, but his eyes carried that characteristic sharpness. So, let's talk about what you've been up to. You've had quite a year. Netflix projects, Spotify, various ventures. How's it all going? Meghan's expression flickered. It's going wonderfully. We're doing important work. Yes. About that. Netflix canceled a few of your projects recently, didn't they? The animated series, some documentary concepts. What happened there? The question landed like a precision strike. Meghan's composure wavered for just a moment. Projects evolve. That's the nature of the entertainment industry. Some things move forward, others don't. It's not cancellation, it's creative development. Graham nodded thoughtfully. Creative development. That's a lovely way of putting it, though I believe the trades specifically used the word cancelled. Is there a semantic difference I'm missing? The trades sensationalize everything. You should know that. I do know that, but they also report facts. And the fact seems to be that several projects you announced with great fanfare are no longer happening. I'm just curious what went wrong. Nothing went wrong. Our focus shifted to other priorities. Which priorities? Because from the outside it looks like Netflix paid you quite a lot of money for content that hasn't materialized. $100 million, wasn't it? Meghan's voice took on an edge. I'm not going to discuss financial details of private contracts. Fair enough. But the contract value was widely reported, as was the, let's call it, underwhelming output relative to that investment. People are curious. People are always curious about things that aren't their business. Graham smiled. Darling, you made it their business. You announced these projects publicly. You promoted them. You positioned yourselves as major content creators. When the content doesn't appear, questions follow. That's not intrusion. That's consequence. The audience stirred. They could feel the temperature in the room changing. Meghan crossed her arms, her posture becoming defensive. Can we talk about something else? Absolutely. How's Harry? The shift in Meghan's demeanor was immediate. Walls going up, expression closing off. I'd prefer not to discuss my husband. Graham's eyebrows rose theatrically. Really? But you've discussed him extensively before. The Netflix documentary was essentially about your relationship. The Oprah interview featured him prominently. Why is he off limits now? Because some things should remain private. Graham laughed, a genuine surprised laugh. Private? Meghan, you've published his family disputes, his therapy sessions, his childhood traumas. Where was private during all of that? That was his choice to share, and this is my choice to ask. You don't get to dictate what's discussable on my show. You can decline to answer, but you can't control the questions. I'm not trying to control anything, aren't you? You've arrived with a list of restricted topics. You're refusing to discuss your husband, your projects, anything that might be remotely challenging. What exactly are you here to talk about? Meghan's face flushed. I'm here to have a genuine conversation. A genuine conversation requires willingness to engage with genuine questions. So far, you've deflected everything I've asked. That's not conversation, that's media management. And frankly, I've had more revealing conversations with people promoting toothpaste. The audience laughed. Meghan did not. Graham pressed forward, his charm undiminished but his questions increasingly pointed. Let's try another topic. The Spotify situation. That ended rather dramatically, didn't it? There was some name-calling, if I recall. Grifters, wasn't it? Meghan's expression hardened. I don't engage with inflammatory labels from unnamed sources. It wasn't unnamed. It was a senior Spotify executive, and grifters is quite specific. It suggests they felt you took money without delivering value. How do you respond to that? I respond by continuing to do meaningful work that speaks for itself. But does it speak? Because the podcast ended after one season. The content was, let's say, limited relative to the investment. From the outside, it does look like payment exceeded output. Quality matters more than quantity. Of course, but quality requires actual product. 12 podcast episodes over 3 years isn't quality, it's almost absence. People notice when the promises outpace the delivery. Meghan stood up slightly, then sat back down. A false start that betrayed her agitation. You're deliberately mischaracterizing our work. I'm describing observable facts. You signed a major deal. You produced minimal content. The deal ended badly. Those are facts, Meghan, not characterization, documentation. The circumstances were complicated. They always are. But complicated circumstances is what people say when they don't want to acknowledge that something went wrong. What went wrong, Meghan? Help me understand. Nothing went wrong. Our visions didn't align. Your vision of being paid millions while producing almost nothing didn't align with their vision of receiving content for their investment? I can see how that might create tension. The audience laughed again. Meghan's face went from red to pale. This is exactly what I expected from British media, Meghan said, her voice tight. The constant negativity, the refusal to engage fairly. Graham tilted his head. I've asked you about your projects, your husband, and your business deals. These are the most basic interview topics. If they feel like attacks, maybe examine why. Your framing is hostile. My framing is curious. I'm genuinely interested in your perspective. But you won't give me one. You give me deflection, talking points, and complaints about the questions themselves. That's not perspective. That's evasion. I'm not evading anything. You've evaded everything. I asked about Netflix. You said projects evolve. I asked about Spotify. You said visions didn't align. I asked about Harry. You invoked privacy. At some point, you have to actually say something, Meghan. Otherwise, what's the point of being here? The point is to connect with your audience. You're not connecting. You're performing. And the performance isn't very good, frankly. I've seen better deflection from politicians, and that's saying something. Meghan grabbed her water glass, then set it down without drinking. I'm not performing. I'm being genuine. Are you? Because genuine people don't speak in press releases. They don't treat every question as a trap. They don't arrive with lists of forbidden topics. Genuine is messy and spontaneous, and sometimes embarrassing. You've been polished and controlled and deeply uninteresting. That's not genuine. That's brand management. The tension in the studio was palpable now. The audience sat in uncomfortable silence, watching the confrontation unfold. Meghan's voice rose. You don't know anything about being genuine. You sit behind that desk making jokes while people like me deal with real consequences. Graham nodded slowly. Real consequences like living in a mansion? Having millions in the bank? Access to every platform you could want? Those consequences? Like being attacked constantly, like having your every move scrutinized, like being unable to exist without criticism. Welcome to public life. Every celebrity experiences that. Every politician, every athlete, everyone who's ever been famous has faced scrutiny and criticism. You're not special in that regard. You're typical. I'm not typical. What I've faced is unprecedented. Is it? Princess Diana faced worse. Kate faces constant criticism. Literally every woman who's married into that family has faced intense scrutiny. You're not unprecedented. You're part of a pattern. The difference is you've monetized it more aggressively than anyone before you. Meghan's hands clenched. I haven't monetized anything. Netflix, Spotify, the memoir, the documentary, the speaking fees, the foundation. You've built an entire business around your grievances, Meghan. There's nothing wrong with that. This is capitalism. But don't pretend you're above commerce while actively engaging in it. I'm trying to help people. You're helping yourself. There's nothing wrong with that either. But the constant framing of self-interest as altruism is exhausting. Just admit you're building a brand. Just admit you're pursuing wealth and influence. Stop pretending it's purely humanitarian. Meghan stood up fully now, her composure finally cracking. This was a mistake. Coming on this show was a mistake. Graham didn't stand. He just looked up at her with an expression of mild curiosity. Probably, but not for the reasons you think. What's that supposed to mean? You came here expecting the usual treatment. Soft questions, sympathetic framing, opportunities to share your rehearsed messages. That's what most shows give you. But this is my show. I ask what I want. And what I want to know is why someone with every advantage still positions herself as perpetually disadvantaged. I don't position myself. It's your entire brand. Meghan the survivor. Meghan the fighter. Meghan who overcame institutional racism and media persecution. That's the story you've sold. And maybe parts of it are true. But when that's the only story you tell, people start wondering if it's the whole story, or just the convenient part. It is the whole story, is it? Because from where I'm sitting, I see someone who had extraordinary opportunities and used them brilliantly, then complained about the opportunities while continuing to benefit from them. That's not victimhood, that's contradiction. Meghan grabbed her purse. I'm not staying to be insulted. You haven't been insulted. You've been questioned. If questions feel like insults, that says more about you than me. Meghan moved toward the edge of the set, then turned back for one final confrontation. You know what your problem is, Graham? You think being witty is the same as being intelligent. You think making people laugh gives you the right to make them uncomfortable. Graham smiled. I think discomfort is often where truth lives. And you've been extremely uncomfortable since you sat down, which suggests there's quite a lot of truth we haven't touched. There's no hidden truth. I've been completely honest. You've been completely controlled. Every answer calibrated. Every response measured. That's not honesty. That's management. And managed people are rarely interesting. They're just managed. I don't need to be interesting for you. No, but you did need my show. Your team reached out. You wanted this platform. And now that the platform isn't doing what you expected, which is making you look good without requiring anything from you, you're leaving. That's a pattern, Meghan. Not just with me, with everyone who doesn't play the game you've designed. Meghan's face contorted with barely suppressed rage. I don't design games. You design everything. The image, the narrative, the public perception. You've been designing since you arrived. The outfit, the posture, the practiced smile. It's all design. And design is fine. Design is smart. But design fails when someone refuses to play along. And I refuse. Then you're the problem. Maybe I'm the first interviewer in a while who's noticed what you're doing and called it out. Others might have been too polite, too afraid of being called racist or hostile or unfair. I'm not afraid of labels, Meghan. I've been called everything. Labels don't work on me. Meghan stood frozen at the edge of the set, caught between her desire to leave and her inability to let Graham have the last word. History will vindicate me. Graham smiled sadly. Maybe. Or maybe history will see someone who had extraordinary privilege and spent most of her time complaining about it. Someone who could have used her platform for almost anything and chose to use it for grievance. Someone who had the world's attention and used it to position herself as a victim. I am a victim. You're a woman who married a prince, lived in palaces, had access to unimaginable wealth and influence, and then chose to leave and monetize that departure. If that's victimhood, we need to redefine the word. You're erasing my actual struggles. I'm contextualizing them. Your struggles are real. Your struggles also happened within a framework of extraordinary advantage. Both things are true. You want to emphasize one and ignore the other. I'm pointing out that both exist. Meghan's voice dropped to something cold. You'll regret this interview. Graham laughed, a genuine, delighted laugh. Oh, darling. I've interviewed politicians who've threatened my career, celebrities who've threatened lawsuits, people with actual power who've tried to end me. You're a former actress who married a prince. You don't frighten me. I'm not trying to frighten you. Then what are you trying to do? Because you've spent 15 minutes being defensive, evasive, and hostile. If that's your genuine self, I understand why you have PR people. If it's not your genuine self, why are you here? Meghan stared at him for a long moment. Something flickered behind her eyes. Frustration, maybe. Or the uncomfortable recognition that she was losing a battle she'd come to win. Goodbye, Graham. Goodbye, Meghan. Thanks for coming. It was exactly what I expected, and somehow still disappointing. She turned and walked off the set, her heels clicking sharply against the floor until a door slammed in the distance. Graham sat in the silence for a moment, then turned to face his audience with a bemused expression. Well, that's certainly not how I expected tonight to go. He shrugged. I thought we might discuss her charities, her projects, perhaps a few amusing anecdotes about life in America. Instead, we got whatever that was. The audience laughed nervously. Here's the thing about interviews. They're supposed to be conversations, give and take. I ask, you answer, we build something together. What we just witnessed wasn't conversation. It was confrontation. And she brought the confrontation with her. I just responded to it. He took a sip of his wine. I'm not going to trash her. That's not my style. But I will say this. If you come on someone's show expecting to control the conversation, you should probably choose a different show. I've been doing this too long to be managed, and I've been doing this too well to pretend questions are attacks. He looked directly into the camera. She's welcome back anytime. Genuinely. I'd love to have the conversation we were supposed to have tonight. But if she comes back, I hope she comes ready to actually engage, not perform. Because performances are boring. And I don't do boring. The footage aired that night, and by morning, it was everywhere. Every clip, every exchange, every perfectly timed observation Graham delivered. The moments that got replayed most were predictable. I've had more revealing conversations with people promoting toothpaste. Quality requires actual product. 12 podcast episodes over 3 years isn't quality, it's almost absence. You've built an entire business around your grievances. Design fails when someone refuses to play along, and I refuse. You're a former actress who married a prince. You don't frighten me. Meghan's team released a statement calling the interview hostile and unprofessional. Graham addressed it on the following week's show. I've seen the statement. Apparently asking about someone's publicly canceled projects is hostile. Apparently not accepting deflection is unprofessional. I've been called worse by better. And I've been doing this long enough to know the difference between hostility and honesty. The audience applauded. Here's what I'll say. She's clearly going through something. Whatever she's dealing with, the pressure, the scrutiny, the weight of constant public attention, it's clearly taking a toll. I hope she finds peace. But I also hope she learns that peace isn't something you find by controlling every conversation. Sometimes you have to let go and trust that people will see the real you. He smiled. Of course, that requires having a real you to show, and I'm not entirely sure she does anymore. The performance has become so complete that I'm not sure where it ends and she begins. That's not a criticism. It's an observation. And observations are what I do. The interview lasted 18 minutes before Meghan walked out. Its impact would last considerably longer. For Graham Norton, it was a demonstration of what he'd always known, that charm and directness could coexist, that kindness didn't require acceptance of nonsense, that asking questions with a smile was still asking questions. For Meghan Markle, it was something else. Proof that her media strategy didn't work on everyone. Evidence that some interviewers couldn't be managed, no matter how carefully the talking points were prepared. Some couches are comfortable. Others reveal everything you're trying to hide. And Graham Norton's red couch had been revealing truths for over 2 decades. It wasn't about to stop for a duchess. What do you think? Was Graham too harsh? Or did Meghan deserve every question? Who would you like to see on the red couch next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video to help it reach more people. Subscribe to our channel for more explosive celebrity moments.